I like the line up here, but unfortunately it's just kind of in the way. Just over there a little bit. Zoom in a little. You can just see the eyelid, or one eye, two eyes, however you want to call that, of RC the El Camino. That's our plan for today, is to start taking the engine out. So let's start with some cold starts. These cars are in by each other, mainly because we had kind of some really cold weather here, or at least for Georgia, and we had some rain and even some snow and ice, and the Queen had to use these for extras work, and so we had to put them in the garage just so that we could keep them out of that climate. But let's go ahead and see if we can get those started. A little bit close here. The Queen was using it, had the seat right up next to it. There are the keys. Corvair always runs really smoothly. As I've told you before, there's no parking brake, so we just take off the, well, that is the parking brake. We take off emergency brake. Got Goldie in her spot. Let's see about Little Blue now. See if we can get it out before we smoke up the garage too much. One of the very first things you should do when you start working on a car is disconnecting the battery. And so that's what we're going to do as well. You might wonder why I'm back here. On El Caminos, it was a very common thing. There was a little, I think they call it the stowaway or the many different names. There's a little luggage compartment back here. This was made from a station wagon, and this would have been the footwell where the back seat was. And so what they've done is they made a little luggage compartment, not luggage, but little storage compartment back here for spare tire and stuff. One of the common things that aftermarket people used to do is move the battery to the back, and that was for better transfer of weight to the back instead of the front, and made things a little cleaner under the hood. We may move the battery back up to the front, because one of the first things that we're going to do is we need to hook up that fuel injection system, And that is going to be a lot easier done when the power source is right up there in the front. All right, with that done, let's get back to work. I've heard putting tape around these things is a good thing to do for taking off the hood so you know right where it goes. Unfortunately, there's really no way to do that with the mounts on the top or the front. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of silver marker right around there. I'll do that on both of the bolts, and that way we know exactly where to line up the washer. It'll, when I undo these bolts, it'll try to sag this way, but you'll kind of have to a little bit of lift up here and just kind of hold it in place. Don't let it, it'll try to slide down that, yeah. Yeah, there's, unfortunately. Let's do this one first.
We should tell our partner.
Okay.
I'm supposed to help with this?
Here, put your arms under it like this. Will be a little bit easier than trying to do a military press. See, turn them around, yeah, like that. Can you lift it up?
You should have married somebody bigger than me.
Give me, do that. That's not the way I wanted that. Okay, so see if we can.
It's stuck over on this right
Okay,
here.
come over here and kind of just hold this in place right here, if you can. It's gonna try and, we just don't want it. And it needs like this, put pressure this way so it doesn't.
Okay.
Okay, can you, let me,
No. There's a thing over there. Okay. We're just
Okay.
scooting the rug.
yeah, I know, that's why I'm
I
trying to.
can't lift it up above the rug.
Okay, here's the rug. Is it slid or is it, hold on, let it sit right here. Hold on, let it sit.
I'm not even strong enough to lift it up off the rug.
You're in a, this is a strange position to do that in. Okay, can you kind of slide the rug over, back over?
Hey, that's something else to do. Piece of fabric.
There. All right, I'm gonna have to reposition this one still.
You still need me and my
Hold on here.
strength.
Let me. Okay, so.
Looks good.
Okay. You're gonna have to get a little, how much do you have? Oh, I need to go your way a little bit. How how far are you hanging off over there?
Not very far.
Okay. So we are only like 2 or 3 inches outside of the top frame of the door there.
Yeah, that's an inch or so over here.
Okay. That's probably good enough. Most of the fuel system we can leave connected to the engine. Unfortunately, the water or the cooling system is going to have to come off pretty much. And so we're going to first take the bottom hose off here so we can hopefully direct it into the bucket that you can see down there, which is almost always kind of an effort in futility, but that's what we're going to try. And then we're going to see about undoing the one hard line here from the fuel system. Well, we probably wouldn't have to have the radiator out. I think it's probably a good idea to do that anyway, because it'll give us a lot more room to work with what we need to do. And we are probably going to replace this radiator. It at one time started to leak right up here around the fittings and the tank. We put some stop leak in it. It did stop it, but I think that is kind of a foregone conclusion that we just need to replace it. Doesn't work too good if you get the battery out of it. Let that sit there for just a second. Put all these bolts right back where they came from, so hopefully we don't lose them. So this line here is the line, fuel line, fuel line that comes from the fuel tank. And while this hose would probably be okay, not only is it old, but it probably is just for a mechanical fuel pump system, which operates on a whole lot lower pressure. In fact, this would be under vacuum instead of under pressure. What we're going to have to do is replace it with something that'll handle about 60 pounds of pressure or more, which means that what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to clamp this off just so it doesn't siphon out. And then we're going to see about undoing this so that we can take the line off of the fuel pump. Oh, if I can hold my screwdriver. Let's try that again. I can hold my screwdriver here. We'll get this line off. I think we may be loose enough to get that off anyway. There we come, I believe. Good, really no fuel there to speak of. That can be now out of the way while we get the engine out. And there's a little bit of fuel, that's probably not where we want it to go. As you can hear, it sounds like maybe we don't have it pinched off hard enough. And we've got a little bit of fuel leaking there. See if we can stop it. And reclamp it a little bit tighter. Sorry about my hands being in the way there. Looks like we've got it all stopped. So this alternator can stay with this engine. We're going to have to undo the ground clamp here, and we're going to have to undo anything that goes to the harness of the car. The alternator, we actually have a new one we're going to put on the new engine. But in the meantime, we've got to get everything else disconnected here. the tension off that other bolt. Now, put the bolt right back. I wanted to show you something that's maybe not real noticeable unless you're driving the car or watching it run. But we have a breather there. It's not hooked up to anything right now, but it would vent to the air. We have another one on this part of the valve cover. This is just vented underneath. We also have one over here, which is just like the other one. That one vents into the atmosphere right now as well. The reason why we had those on there is there's a whole bunch of blow-by on this engine. And you can kind of see it if I get you a little bit closer here. See the oil on that? That's a spark plug wire that just kind of happens to run under that vent. But it is just covered with oil. That, and along with the lifter lobe that's worn down, so we have basically 7 cylinders that are running. It still has a lot of power, but we're going to rebuild it, probably leave it carbureted, or maybe put the other fuel injection system that was on it originally, put it back on with the Mega Squirt brains, and then we'll see if we can reuse it in something else. I wish that all of the bolts, sorry about that. I wish that all of the bolts were going to be that easy, but they won't be. Mainly because these bolts here, all other than this front one, which operates also as a mount, all the rest of these are 3/8 and they're right next to the headers. And so to get them off, luckily they're usually not too super tight, but we have to try and make them tight so that the exhaust doesn't leak, but not so tight that we can't get them off. I've had one, or seen bolt sets that had hex heads on them. Very honestly, I'm not sure how, such as this one right here, how much you can see that there, how you could get in there. I don't know if you can see the bolt up that close, but pretty much every time I take these bolts in and out of the head, I put a little bit of anti-seize on them, and that's because I don't want them to be stuck in there, corroded and stuck in there, that I have a hard time getting them out. I think that'll become even more important when I have aluminum heads that are on the new engine and I still have steel bolts going into them. Imagine that will become or could become a problem if I don't put anti-seize on them. Unfortunately, not quite loose enough to do it with my hands yet. With fingers. Right. That's the last one of those. Back to the front. Now we can pull this off. Hopefully you can see that. There we are. Only thing left, unfortunately, is we're going to have to undo all the spark plug leads because they go around the mounting flange of the headers. So they'll have to come out of the way. Probably also need to take all the spark plugs out just so that we don't damage them. We're under the car here, and we've got about 3 jobs to do here, 3 main jobs. One is to undo all the bolts that hold the flex plate to the torque converter. You can't really see it, but I've got my wrench on one of them. Let's see if we can see the other side. So we'll get those off. There's 3 of those around there. Then the second thing is starter. If you can see that up there, we've got 2 bolts to get that starter off. 1 and 2. That technically doesn't need to be off to get the engine out, but it'll probably make it easier sneaking it by the headers and everything. And then, last but not least, once we get some weight on the engine, or some weight taken off the engine, I should say, we need to undo the bolts up there. There they are. There's one down there. Another one up there. Anyway, you get the idea. Got to get all those off. These bolts are usually pretty tight. Sometimes with a wrench require a little bit more persuasion. Now, because we have everything else undone, we're we're going to have to bar the engine over a little bit until we get to the next bolt. But I think you probably have the idea there. Took all of the bolts connecting the flex plate to the torque converter. It now turns by itself. So that's undone. We're just about to get the bolts out of the starter here. See if I can position you right. Hope I've got you in the picture there. Have to be a little bit careful here because we're right below the starter. Don't want to smash the camera with the starter. I joke, but we almost did it here. And there she comes.